Well, welcome to JW Night Talk. And I hope that wasn't your experience at the assembly. But, when you come into our studio here at JW Night Talk, isn't it the music nicer? And I don't know, I think the crowd, look at, there's K-Fred already. Smiling face, SDR, hello. So you guys are just good old faithfuls, and thank you for being here and being a part of this show. And we have an exciting show here. Actually, we're going to be going over some of the. I covered a video already on just giving my take on their advertising, their synopsis of the district assembly, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. We're going to talk about the effects of what this district assembly is going to have on people. Now, if you're out there as a creator, and I'm just saying this because other people will watch this video, or you're thinking of being a creator of videos, we need more creators out. Because right now, when we plug in on the internet, JW, Jehovah's Witnesses, and we look for news, my good wife is always looking for news, up comes a whole list of assemblies. And the Jehovah's Witness advertising department all over the world this time of the year, they're out there and they're contacting all the news media and they're bringing them all in and they're showing them all the fluffy stuff about the assembly. And we watched one the other day about in our area in Medicine Hat here, and how they're bringing all these people to the communities, and they're interviewing community leaders, and they're saying, oh yeah, our hotels are all full, and our restaurants are all full. Well, you remember the day, I don't know if you had to travel to a district assembly. I did. For 30 years, I traveled to a district assembly. I never lived in the city. Once, for one term of my life, I lived in the city in Millwoods, Edmonton, and lo and behold, that year they switched the district assembly to Calgary. So I moved to Edmonton where the district convention was, and I wouldn't have to rent a hotel, because we used to have to come in Thursday night with all the kids, rent the hotel, get all the kids settled. There's no way I'm driving 4 or 5 hours from where I had to drive down to the district assembly the same day of the assembly. So we'd have to come in the night before, Thursday night, get a hotel, buy meals. We'd bring a cooler, of course, but that would empty up. And we tried to do it, buy groceries and make sandwiches and stuff. But we'd always go out for a meal. And it was always $100, always. So even if you go through McDonald's, it's $75 half the time. But anyways, it's not cheap running into these district assemblies. It's good for the communities, like Medicine Hat in our area. Down southern Alberta, they were saying, oh, it's good for our communities. It is. And you see, this is what Jehovah's Witnesses are doing. Their news media are going in and they're saying, oh, we're going to bring all this business to your communities. Meanwhile, us, poor pioneers and publishers, we're just trying to make it through the day, and we have all these expenses to bear, not only new suits and new dresses and all this stuff. Everyone has to have new shoes, especially the girls, and the kids are outgrowing their stuff so quick. And you try buying little man suits and little girl dresses, those things get expensive. So it was just too much. But here's what's going on. We're going to talk about something else besides the cost on this program tonight. We're going to talk about the fear warning and the potential effects of chronic fear on the physical health from chronic fear. And we're going to look at one of the video flicks here just a little bit to show you what they're doing and how they're instilling all this fear into people. So they're saying be patient, but then there's all of this fear. Okay, well, 5 things you may not know about fear. You guys have seen the clips on the assembly, have you not? Let's look at one before we read this, and let's see who's online now. We have Sheila Holloway. Hello, Sheila from Newfoundland, Canada. Thank you for joining us here in Canada. And if you haven't had a chance, on the descriptions of all of our videos, we're running a petition in Canada and we're looking for signatures to take it to Parliament and do the same thing that they did in Norway. We're challenging the government. Why are we treating religions that shun people? Why are we treating them as charity? So Sheila, if you can help us, we would appreciate that. Shalina, I guess, Shalina Holloway. Thank you for joining us tonight. King of Dots, thanks for being here. And Sherry D, you're right. These conventions are doctrines of men, so to speak, as they are not biblical. See Leviticus. Absolutely, Sherry. They're idol worship. This assembly is about exercising patience in the governing body, because the governing body had said the end's coming so many times, right? So we're going to look at, we're going to go to JW.org here. Sorry. Don't boo too hard. We're not going to play. I don't like playing a lot of their videos. I'm going to be honest. I find that if I listen to too much of their stuff, it's just the same old slow motion stuff, and it's designed to brainwash. We're gonna show you a couple of things. So here, let's start with attend the convention right here, and they come up, exercise patience in the convention here. Now, there's also a song. I was going to pull up the song for this convention. And there's a lot of programming going into that song. Where is it? It's in another part. I'll find it here. But the song that they're playing, it sounds nice. So I put a challenge out there to John the Preacher, to a lot of other creators that do satires, is let's do satires on these songs. Let's change the words. So we started to do it. It's a little bit of work to do that, but that's how we have to deprogram. And the reason I was talking about all the news media is because the news media are out there showing this stuff, exercise patience, the convention, what you see here behind me. And we have, as creators, we have to get out there and put as many videos out there as we can on the convention. So that's my goal this year, is I'm gonna start doing that, and you're gonna see lots of videos coming out on the convention as it unfolds. I'm already working on the Friday afternoon session, and they'll come out as separate little videos, but perhaps we'll come on to the JW Night Talk and we can chat about some of these things live. So what I want to talk about live tonight is, it's all the same old, program highlights, learn to be patient. And the thing here that gets me is they show this family, but they break families up. What do you have to be patient when you broke your family up? We're going to talk about that in a bit. And but the bad part of this whole program is this feature drama. And the feature drama is the big part of any of these district assemblies, and it's the main punch. It's what everyone takes home to the bank when they go home. All the Jehovah's Witnesses, all 8.5 million plus mixed company that are joining in on this all over the world, they're going to take this home. And what you're going to get out of this, and I'm going to warn you, if you have young children and stuff like that, there's violence in here. It's not for everyone, but they're playing this to babies. Machine guns. Now, think about it. We had one of our people online that commented, and he says, the guy says, imagine all of the donation money that went to buy all those machine guns for this video. So I'm going to put this video on. Let's just get it going here. And it's right here. I think we can blow this up. Feature drama preview. Here it is. I'm going to blow it right up. Okay, now what I have to do on here, my system's not as good as Gilbert's. Is Gilbert online yet? I got to turn my desktop audio on. And then I got to turn my mic off, and I'm going to disappear here.
If mom and dad were alive, they would be very proud of you. You know what I'm thinking? You could have more. I'm talking about real security for you and the family. a government carpentry contract.
U93.6.
As an update to our report from yesterday, militia groups are threatening to take over the capital. Violence has been escalating in the area.
As you are aware, the branch has recommended that we meet and discuss the possibility of civil unrest in our area.
There will always be rumors surrounding the elections.
The safety of the congregation is a concern.
There's no need to worry. These are just threats, rumors. There's nothing to it. We received direction from the branch. Those brothers are so far away, though. I keep wondering if they are being overly cautious.
Remember, Amani, your strength will be in keeping calm and showing trust.
Wake up! Wake up! Are you still trusting these people to guide your life?
Father Jehovah, please help me.
Okay, so you can see how they. I'm just adjusting my light to my camera here. It's a little bright. I'm just going to get off this big screen here, so you can see how they use. Well, they use everything in here. They use fear. They dramatize how you have to follow Jehovah. You hear they start out. They're playing soccer at the beginning. It's everything's good.
If mom and dad were alive,
But then
they would be.
all heck breaks out in the community. This is depicted in Africa, where there's civil unrest, or one of these countries. I'm not sure if I'm saying the right country, but yeah, this is how they're doing it. Now, Dan and Angela went to this convention and they seen this, and they said it was people were crying, and it was just terrible how they're using fear to indoctrinate. And he said the thing that they couldn't get out of it is they kept throughout the whole video drama at the assembly, they kept telling everyone to go to the camp, whatever happens, go to the camp. And I guess the father, they show this little family, and a father got separated and the kids got separated, and the father said, go to the camp, don't listen to anybody, just go to the camp. That's where Jehovah is. So you see what they're doing. They're indoctrinating the people to go to the camp. And then they showed a picture of the people's homes. They said, just flee your home, leave your home. Well, the homes were burnt down. They showed the homes burnt down, kind of crisped at the end, but the people didn't see that. So now this is giving another message. It's giving a message to the people, leave your estates to the society, because it's all going to be burnt at Armageddon. So you see what the indoctrination is? It's fear. So everyone's going to leave this assembly, and there was a lot of stuff going on here. I'm just going to get back to it here a little bit.
And keeping calm and showing trust.
Wake up! Wake up! Are you still trusting these people to guide your life?
Father Jehovah.
So here I am. Yeah. So there's a lot of fear into the Jehovah's Witness conventions, and they get people crying after this stuff. And now people are going to go home. This is what they're going to go home with. Commit your way to the governing body. You see, all of their stuff says commit your way to Jehovah, but Jehovah is the governing body. Because when we read the Bible says to commit yourself to Jesus Christ. Jehovah gave it all to Jesus. Jesus is in charge. He's the boss, but Jesus is not mentioned anywhere in this stuff. It's all Jehovah. And of course, it's Jehovah's Witnesses. So Jehovah, if you do the research, is a God of war. Now, Sherry's online. She'll tell us a lot about Yahweh. But Jehovah's not even, it's a made-up name. It was brought about in the 15th century by a Catholic bishop. And the organization got a hold of this, and they made the whole religion out of it. But Jehovah is a God of war. But Jesus is a God of love. So there's differences there. So, but the whole assembly is really about fear. And if you follow Jehovah's Witness teachings, that's what it is. Now, here's what fear does. I'm going to get right into this. Fear, 5 things you never knew about fear. Understanding the science of fear. Now, fear is our survival response, says a Northwest Medicine clinical psychologist. Fear is physical. Fear is experienced in your mind, but it triggers a strong physical reaction in your body. As soon as you recognize fear, your amygdala, a small organ in the middle of your brain, it goes to work. Fear is not a bad thing, but here, let's talk about it for a bit here. It alerts your nervous system, which sets your body's fear response into motion. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline are released. Your blood pressure and heart rate increase. You start breathing faster. Even your blood flows changes. And blood actually flows away from your heart and into your limbs, making it easier for you to start throwing punches or run for your life. And your body is preparing for fight or flight. Now, we did an article, a video about the naked Jehovah's Witness. You'll see it on my site. It shows a police officer and a naked Jehovah's Witness. But anyways, this was in my backyard. And these Jehovah's Witnesses thought the end was coming, and they got into some hallucinogenic tea or some of these things that they get into. And they thought the end was coming. The police, it took 4 policemen, 4 tasers to put down a woman, a Jehovah's Witness woman, and I know the family. And she was in good standing doing assembly parts. So this is what happens. Fear is physical. They thought the end was going to be there. They were in a fight or flight mode, and they took the SUV and they smashed right through their gate, their iron gate. And by the time the police got, and then they stopped and got a neighbor, and they forced the neighbor into the vehicle, and they inflicted all of this upon an innocent neighbor and children. They were all naked. You got to watch it. This is real stuff. But fear is physical. So these Jehovah's Witnesses, they will go into a fight or flight mode, and they will be strong. Okay. Now, fear can make you foggy. As some parts of your brain are revving up, others are shutting down when the amygdala senses fear. That's that little thing in our brain, right? The cerebral cortex area of the brain that harasses reasoning and judgment becomes impaired. So it starts to hamper our brain. Our brain's impaired. So now it's difficult to make good decisions or think clearly. As a result, you might scream and throw your hands up when approached by an actor in a haunted house, unable to rationalize the threat is not real. So fear can become pleasure too. But why do people who love roller coasters, haunted houses, and horror movies enjoy getting caught up in those fearful, stressful moments? Because the thrill doesn't necessarily end when the ride or the movie ends. Through the excitation transfer process, your body and your brain remains aroused even after your scary experience is over. So people go to the district assembly and they believe this stuff is real. They believe this is going to happen. They believe that they are now giving instructions from the faithful slave that Jehovah has directed to usurp Jesus, because that's really what they're doing. Jehovah's directed the faithful slave, because Jehovah's the boss, right? So Jehovah said, Jesus, just wait up there on your horse until the governing body's ready. And when the governing body's ready, they'll call you into action, Jesus. It's kind of like that. The governing body is calling the shots. And so people, they're on this roller coaster ride at the assembly, and this is what they take home, is this drama. They're fearful. They're fearful, and they now know that they have direction from the governing body to leave their homes when the governing body says yes. When the governing body says, follow us blindly down this road, up this mountain, up this hill to a camp, they believe that they should do that. And they come into the camp and they're handed a package. And that's all their clothes and stuff, just like a refugee camp is what they made this look like. But you see, folks, And we have to let the Jehovah's Witnesses know that when there's a disaster, the Jehovah's Witnesses do not have the relief to deal with civil unrest. This is where there's other agencies all over the world that help countries in civil unrest. And we could be costing our own lives, our families' lives, if we blindly follow some elder up some hill to some camp that is not authorized, that's managed by the governing body out of New York. You see, the governing body out of New York has no business managing the people in Africa if there's civil unrest. You see, according to Romans 13:1, it says, be in subjection to governments and authorities. So we find out how we can be in subjection, and we can be pacifists, non-combat, and all of those things, and not get involved in the war. But there's a certain channel, and the channel is not blindly following the governing body. This is nonsense. So people are going to go home and they're going to be fearful about this. And it says, but why do people love roller coaster rides? And because after you leave, there's this excitation transfer process. So imagine all of these people go home and they're talking, hey, can you imagine what we're going to... Now everyone's going to be imagining what Armageddon's like. You see, the governing body has painted the picture. They put out the roadmap. This is what's going to happen. Now everyone's excited, the excitation transfer process, they go home and they talk about this for weeks on ends at their meetings, and they recite the assembly. So your body and your brain remains aroused even after your scary experience is over at the assembly. So during a staged fear experience, your brain will produce more of a chemical called dopamine, which elicits pleasure, says Dr. Sikora. So fear is not a phobia. If you're slightly uneasy about swimming in an ocean after watching Jaws, the movie did what it was set out to do. But if you find yourself terrorized, traumatized, and unable to function at the mere thought of basking on a beach, you might be experiencing more than just fear. The difference between fear and phobia is simple. Fears are common reactions to events or objects, but a fear becomes a phobia when it interferes with your ability to function and maintain a consistent quality of life. So if you start taking extreme measures to avoid the water, spiders, or people, well, you may have a phobia. So there's a little bit of a difference between phobia and fear. Fear keeps you safe. Now, fear is a natural and biological condition that we all experience, and it's important that we experience fear because it keeps us safe. Fear is a complex human emotion that can be positive and healthy, but it can also have negative consequences. If a fear or phobia affects your life in a negative and inconvenient way, speak to your primary care provider who can help determine the kind of treatment you might need. Now, we're going to get into this in a little greater detail now. But you would want to go to you see, Jehovah's Witnesses would go to their elders, and they would go to their elders to, let me just see where I'm at here. Yeah. Sorry. So there's the fear of the assembly. So, yeah. So the fear, a lot of people have fear of crowds. They don't even like to go to these assemblies, but how many people go to these assemblies and they have this fear of crowd? Probably a lot. I hated the crowds. Now, excuse me for a second. Now, we're going to get onto another article here on, and I think I have too much light, eh? I can see myself in the screen there. I could shut that light off. Try that. work a little better. I dimmed it. Okay, sorry about that. We do have new lights on order. It just takes a while to get them away up here in Canada. They have to come from a long ways. Amazon does not ship overnight anymore. Okay, we're going to go on to another article, The Effects of Chronic Fear on a Person's Health. Now, these articles are clipped. This particular article is clipped in the description below. So if you want to look at it, you can. Now, I'm just going to go skim a little bit of it here. And it said at a 2017 Neuroscience Education Institute Congress, they focused on the psychology of fear and its impact on wellness. Now, fear is a feeling that is internal and it's conscious. So it arises when the sensory system in the brain has determined an external stimulus and it poses a threat. So we talked about that. So outputs of threat detection circuits trigger a general increase in brain arousal and can result in altered threat processing, fear, and anxiety disorders. Now, this professor explains 3 predictable stages the body uses to respond to stressors, called the general adaptation syndrome. So there's 3 things. We're going to look at the first one, it's alarm. The second one's resistance. And the third one is exhaustion. So alarm. The first reaction to stress recognizes there's a danger and prepares to deal with the threat. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenaline axis and automatic nervous systems are activated. Primary stress hormones, cortisol, or adrenaline, and non-adrenaline are released. So that's the alarm stage, so we're at the assembly and holy crap, Armageddon's coming, they're preparing us. So now the alarm sets in, right? People start crying at the assembly. And they even start to visualize that this could be happening when they get home, maybe. They start preparing. So number 2, resistance. There's a part of the brain that begins restoring balance and a period of recovery for repair, and renewal takes place. Stress hormones may return to normal, but there may be reduced defenses and adaptive energy left. And then the third one is exhaustion. At this phase, the stress has continued for some time. The body's ability to resist is lost because its adaptation energy supply is gone. This is often referred to as an overload, a burnout, adrenaline fatigue, maladaptation, or dysfunction. And we're going to talk about some of the harm that this does to your body. Now, if you can imagine, people go to the assembly, they get into this alarm, and they go home and they start visualizing Armageddon. The JW org has made Armageddon real. Machine guns, everything, going to a camp, following the governing body blindly. And so now they put the fear into people. But then in the same context, they're saying be patient. Wait on them. They're not saying wait on Jehovah. They're saying wait on them. You see, the fact that they're even putting this fear out there is just destructive. Think about it. Was it back in the 60s, there was a radio broadcast, they did a mock thing about UFOs, and it put the whole nation into alert. And people were falling off their chairs. And it was just a story. The guy was just reading a story. But he read it so real, I guess people thought it was real. They tuned into the radio. Now, the governments, to this day, they're not going to tell us if there really is UFOs out there and they're communicating. They're not going to tell us because maybe the UFOs are not friendly. Maybe they're, they're telling them to put aside their nuclear, they're saying, or else. I don't know. But we're not told. We don't know if there really is or there isn't, or if it's just all a joke, or if it's just all conspiracy. We don't know. Why? Because the governments do not want to put fear into people. Because things just go into chaos. People go into this alarm mode. And then they get resistance, and then they get exhaustion over this fear. And you see, the governments understand the psychology of people. Now, the governing body understands the psychology of people, and they understand that they're losing people in droves. And if they don't put the fear of God into them, it's really the fear of the governing body. But if they don't put the fear of God into them, then people are going to just leave, right? There's too much information on the internet. So that's what they're doing. They're making their brains foggy. Remember, we just learned these are some of the side effects, fogginess. Well, here's some of the other side effects. Alterations to the HPA axis in your brain can cause several conditions such as chronic pain, fibromyalgia. Now, when I was a Jehovah's Witness, everyone had fibromyalgia. I don't know why. It was the first time I ever heard of this disease, fibromyalgia. And then I leave the Jehovah's Witness and I never hear of this disease again. I only hear about it in that religion. Starts to make sense. And here's another one, an insulin resistance. You also, diabetes, so much diabetes in the organization. So much sickness. This professional goes on and outlines the potential consequences of fear on the overall and physical, emotional, environmental, and in spiritual health. It says the potential effects of chronic fear on an overall health include immune system dysfunction. And NDOS, I'm going to put this up on the screen so you guys can see all this stuff here. Let's just see. So it's right up here. I can't pronounce some of these words. Endocrine system dysfunction, autonomic nervous system alterations, sleep and wake cycle disruptions, eating disorders. How many Jehovah's Witnesses have eating disorders? So many of them, they just binge eating and sit in front of the TV after and eat and eat. And some people are just inundated with all that information. And in the assembly, I used to be inundated. I'd come home from the assembly, drive all those hours. I was broke. It was all on my visa. And I wasn't only worried about the end coming, but I was worried about how I was going to pay my visa off. Sorry. But that's what it does to people. And so what do? We end up getting fat and we buy a bag of, we buy this passive food, chocolate bars, potato chips and pop, and we sit in front of the TV and we look for something else to watch besides Jehovah's Witness programming because it's just blowing our mind up. And that's what it's like, these being in the organization. It's not healthy. So the potential effects of chronic fear on the physical health include headaches turning into migraines. I knew so many witnesses that have migraines. My ex had migraines and her best friend had migraines, and then they'd get on the migraine pills and it was like drugs, right? And they get hooked on them, and there's so much of that also. Now it says muscle aches turning into fibromyalgia, body aches turning into chronic pain, and difficulty breathing turning into asthma, says the psychologist. Now, the potential effects of chronic fear on the emotional health scale include disassociation from self, unable to have loving feelings. There's a big one. If you're in a religion and you're supposed to love everyone, well, it says you're unable to have loving feelings. So you're in this religion, you're in all this fear, you're picturing that you have to follow this elder on some trail up to a camp to save your life. And all those people back that are getting burnt in town, you're unable to have any loving feelings toward them, your families, disfellowshipped ones, whatever. This is what the religion is doing to people. They know it. Learned helplessness. So now people are learning to be helplessness. They have to wait on the governing body. Not wait on Jehovah, it's waiting on the governing body. Let's be real here. They're not waiting on Jehovah at all. They're not waiting on Christ. They don't even talk about Christ. Phobic anxieties, mood swings, obsessive compulsive thoughts. Imagine all these Jehovah's Witnesses that have to come home from the assembly this year and have all of these thoughts about going to this camp. It's terrible. Continued living in fear generation situations due to uncertainties of moving out and unknowing associated dangers. So this is talking about the potential consequences of chronic fear on the environmental health of us. So continued living in fear, generating situations due to uncertainty of moving out of unknown associated dangers. So you see, when you're uncertain and you're inside this religion, well, you're uncertain about getting out because you don't know, like you're clouded. And this is what's happening. It's clouding people. So the governing body knows by doing all this fear mongering in this drastic way with machine guns and the Civil War and all this stuff, that they're going to really get people staying in because they're going to make them uncertain. And then they're not able to find a safe housing. It says it right here. Afraid to leave home because of paranoia. The potential consequences of chronic fear and spiritual health. Bitterness. Okay, so here's the consequences of your spiritual health. Bitterness and fear toward God or others. So why do people become atheists when they leave the Jehovah's Witness religion? Here it is, bitterness. Confusion, disgust with God or religion. How many people are disgusted with religion? I am not going back to any religion. So many. A loss of trust in God and or clergy. That's it in this religion. And waiting for God to fix it. How many of us are on this side waiting for God to fix it? And then the despair related to the perceived loss of spirituality. Well, what do I believe? Can I be spiritual and outside of religion? All of these things work on a person. So Moeller explained that fear affects the ability to learn. And the brain's capacity to retrieve previous learning is dependent on specific chemicals, states Moeller. Chemical alterations can distort perception of sensory information, thus distorting our storage in our brains. And when the brain is hyper-aroused, storage may be incomplete, and new information will be stored in a non-verbal memory, said Moeller. And this distorts the storage of sensory input, and the retrieval of information will be affected. So people walk out of the religion in a fog, and they walk out of this religion. They're in a fog because of all of this fear. So it's not good. Now, I want to take this on a different note, different track. We're going to look at just a couple scriptures on today here, and here we are, right here. And now what I did is I plugged in fear. What is healthy fear? Like, there's healthy fear. What does the Bible say? The Bible says, "Fear not, for I am with you." So the Bible, right off the bat, first thing that comes up, fear not. God says, I'm with you. There's no reason to fear. Timothy, he says, God gave us a spirit not of fear. So right off the bat, not of fear. You see, for us to be putting all this fear upon people would be contradictory towards what the Bible's saying about fear. We shouldn't be in fear. Psalms, it says, I sought the Lord and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. So, there's no reason to be fearful if we're a person of God, if we're a person of Christ. Now, here's one of my favorite ones. Where is it? The fear of man lays a snare, but whoever trusts the Lord is safe. Be anxious in everything. There's no fear in love is the one I'm looking for, actually. I'm gonna just scale the search a little bit. Fear and love. Here it is. Now here. Right. Then this is a good little tool if you guys don't know where it is. It's Bible, Open Bible Info. You just type in your word keywords and it pulls all the scriptures up. It's really simple. But here it is, 1 John 4:18. It says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. So there's no fear in love. So there's the protection, folks. If the society, if the governing body, Jehovah's Witnesses, if they wanted to help people, they would go in and talk about love. They would talk about what Christ talked about. And then they would all, at lunchtime, maybe go out and help the poor, maybe go around the community and feed the poor. Could you imagine that being a district assembly? Just like Christ, let's be imitators of Christ. So then they'd start reading these kinds of scriptures, that there's no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. So what did Jesus do? He went out and helped people. And this is something to try, and we're going to talk about why it's important as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses to try different things, because we have to rewire our minds. We got to rewire it, and we're going to talk about that in some detail here. But anyways, fear and love, there's no fear. They don't work hand. It's like oil and water, right? There is no fear if you have love. No reason to fear. Patience. Now, they want to talk about patience, right? Well, it says, rejoice in hope and be patient in tribulation and be constant in prayer. So life is full of tribulation, so we have to be patient as we work through life. It's just a very simple thing. Galatians 6 and 9, and let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. Yeah, and that's part of being patient. We learn that more as we grow older, I hope. Now, it says in Romans, but if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. There's another good example of patience. Nothing about waiting for the governing body. There's nothing in the Bible that says be patient and wait for the faithful and discreet slave. Nothing like that. The Bible is all about us and our spirituality with God or Jesus, or whoever you worship. That's what spirituality is about. It's an internal thing. It's about me. My spirituality isn't about your spirituality. Now I'm sharing this with you on this channel. I'm sharing how I find my spirituality and how the Jehovah's Witnesses do it and how I was taught to do it for 30 years in that religion. So it's not that complicated to look at how to be patient. Now, Colossians talks about it there. It says, put on then as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. So it's kind of part of the works of the Spirit. We try to be patient with one another. And it does take work, so we do have to exercise it. So there's nothing wrong with talking about it. But then throwing in the fear, into the middle of this assembly really changes the whole assembly. And they do this, by the way, they throw that fear, that drama in, and then they talk about their financial situation at the assembly. They always say they're free, but they go on and on about how they're in the deficit. And I had one of the commenters online, an ex-Jehovah's Witness, says, yeah, they get most of these places for free. And they talk about this big deficit as if that's what it would have costed them. But you see, what happens, in case you guys aren't aware, is the week before renting an assembly hall, like a convention center in a city, Jehovah's Witnesses go in a week before and clean up, like they bring in thousands of people in the city, in Edmonton. So when I moved from Cold Lake to Edmonton, I didn't have to drive to the assembly, but I had to go in with my family and scrapers and stuff and scrape all the gum off seats. And we'd go in a couple of times sometimes, and we'd scrub in and scrub that whole Coliseum. And a lot of these Coliseums give the Coliseum to the people for free. And Jehovah's Witnesses get free parking, but yet they have people and they're selling parking passes. So it's kind of fraudulent what they're doing. They're making money off us, and they're getting all this stuff for free. Probably in lots of places they are. So I don't know all the details. I was never a secretary in on any of this stuff. But I see the comments come in, and I thank you guys for doing that. Now, we're going to talk about one more scripture here, and then this is going to lead us into our next topic. And it's talking about reaping and sowing. And this is a scripture that everyone knows, Galatians 6 and 9, and let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. And Galatians 6 and 7, just before that, says, do not be deceived, God is not mocked, for whatever one sows, that he will also reap. So the Bible teaches us about this reaping and sowing, and Jesus talked about this, whatever we put out comes back. And he kept putting out fish, and more fish kept coming into his bowl, apparently. These were one of the miracles that's recorded in the Bible. Now, the principle or the storyline there is what we put out comes back. So if we put out fear, what comes back? Fear comes back into the organization. And that's why when I did my intro, I had all these fearful things happening at the assembly. You see, people are at the assembly, and the jw.org is at the assembly, and they're telling the people all about Satan the devil, Satan the devil, Satan's the ruler of the system, Satan this, Satan that. All the way through the program. It's all mixed in there. And it's fear. It's so little kids, these monsters, what does Satan look like? It's scary for them to always be talking about this wild beast in the world in this way. So even these infants, these small children, go to these assembly programs and they're brainwashed. And their brains are impaired, just as we have learned. And if you stay into this stuff and you don't undo it, we start to grow older quicker. Our bones deteriorate quicker because our body is in the fight and flight mode and it's using up all of its resources too soon. We don't need to use those resources up unless there's an emergency. So Jesus says whatever we put out comes back to us. So we're going to look at a video on this and we're going to go to this site. Sorry, I'm just going to clear my throat here for a second. So the Pepsi contract didn't come through, so that's why I'm not doing any Pepsi on this show anymore. I'm just promoting good old well water, and I just fill this up right from the tap. Did you know that your dogs and your cats would rather drink well water than bottled water? If you pour bottled water into a dish and well water into a dish, your dogs and your animals will choose the well water 100% of the time because they're smart. Because in the bottled water, there's little beads of plastic. And this bottled water is the biggest joke on earth, my opinion. And these plastic bottles just fill up our landfills. It's just not good stuff. But anyways, that's my harp on the environment. We're going to move next into the subject of the law of attraction. Now, this is a site I would recommend you guys subscribing to and checking it if the subject interests you. And it's Your Universe. And this lady has 588 videos, almost 1,000 subscribers. And she's a doctor, a PhD. And we're going to look at one of her videos. I emailed her, asked her to come on the show live. She said she couldn't, she didn't have time. Now she's written a book, and you can go on and look at about her in the about column, and you can read all about her. And you can even email her. They have all kinds of help sessions, how to train your brain for effortless manifestation without waiting for years of results. So this is what this is about. I started looking into the actual law of attraction back in 2012 when I was leaving the religion. I had a Bible study or a return visit that was into the secret, he said. And I talked about this on the show before. And so I talked to the elders and they knew nothing about it. And in fact, one sister in the congregation left her husband and she joined the secret. So I was convinced it was some religion. But it wasn't. When I left, I read the book, The Secret. It was just some lady from Australia who's actually into news journaling, wrote this book on the law of attraction. Now, I found that this work here is much better than the book, The Secret. Now, I shouldn't say that online, but this lady is coming from a PhD. She's a doctor. And the lady that wrote The Secret, she's a journalist. So two different types of people. Good books. But this is an educational thing. So we're going to get into this here, this educational video. And let me see here. I'm over here just going through my things. Now, I want to go on to the live here and just see who's on. Let me go back up to Night Talk here. So I want to see who's on just before we move into the next video and say hi to everyone because it moves along fast. So King of Dots, K. Fred, Twisted Scriptures, welcome to the show. Hi from Washington. And Sherry D is on. Yes, we said hi to Sherry. And Sherry likes to talk. I really appreciate you coming on the channel, Sherry, because you add a lot of life to it. You're very involved. You got a lot of knowledge too, and a lot of people like that. So that's great. Now, who else is online? I'm looking for someone different. Brian Dykeman. Brian Dykeman, hello. And Lou Jean B7, hello. Welcome to the show. Brian says, growing up in a house hearing the world's ending was hard on my mentality. Funny thing, those people are never wrong. I was told I would make 13. No point in an educational. People are still right. So yeah, you know, it's hard on our brains in that religion when we're told the end is always coming. And I can imagine. I didn't grow up as a young child in it, so I don't know what that feels like. But I hear you, Brian. Good comment. There's Gilbert, GG4GB. Hey, Sherry, Gilbert. We were looking for your live the other night, Gilbert. We enjoy your show, and thanks for joining our show. Jehovah's Debater, thanks for being on the show today. I don't know that I'm hot. I think I'm not. And Brian, and so, okay, so here we go. I think this is the best part of the show, what we're moving into next. And here we go. We're going to go into the display. We're going to pull in the whole display, and we're going to watch this video. Now, this video, I just watched this today, and it was an eye-opener for me. So here it is. I'm going to actually disappear.
Quantum physics tells us that when energy is in how the mind influences reality. Quantum physics tells us that when energy is entwined with the consciousness, we pull from an infinite number of possibilities that are available to us and manifest in our physical reality. We are partly a product of our environment and the experiences we've had in our formative years, but we have the ability to alter any portion of our surroundings and create a new future once we understand how and why the power of our mind is so crucial in doing so. We live in two simultaneous worlds. The invisible world of cause, where thoughts and beliefs are creators, and the seemingly material world of effect, where the results or manifestations of our thoughts and beliefs come into being and are experienced. The law of creation is exact and can easily be demonstrated through the invisible idea of a plant within a seed. That idea is within the seed before it is even planted, and that seed will produce only the particular plant which is invisible within it. Both physical scientists and metaphysicians agree that the physical world is in constant change. The more we learn about the inner or invisible world in which man exists, we realize that this invisible world is infinite. Man, who is in the image and likeness of the infinite intelligent power, is also infinite and has available to him an ever-expanding intelligence. Through the law of creation, man can project an idea into the mind and have that idea come into manifestation. With this knowledge, we can take control and start to shape our life and reality from a creative consciousness paradigm. Once fully understood, we can shed ourselves of our old paradigms of reality that constrain us and accelerate the ushering in of a new reality which empowers and creates a basis for total wellness. We must take our own unfoldment in our hands and give conscious direction to the evolutionary forces within us. From the perspective of quantum physics, the universe is made up entirely of energy. The science also states that all things are interconnected, interdependent, and essentially one or unified. The energy exists in two forms, either in particle, having form, or as wave, unformed or empty of form. Particles can be seen and observed at points in time and space and are the basis for the objects that we perceive in the universe or the established reality we are used to living and moving through. Waveform energy includes anything related to thoughts, sounds, mind images, and feelings. Uniquely, we humans possess both states of energy in our makeup, and so have an inner waveform energy world and life. This wave energy flows in and between our perceived particle-based body, which is the boundary that most believe is where we start and end. In other words, the perception for many is that the physical body is the self. This gives rise to the mistake that the physical component is all that we are, which often leads to separation consciousness, where we think I and not we, and start to think of everything outside of this I as the objective and not our concern unless it suits us. The truth is that the embodied reality we call I gives us our definition of time and space. The mind gives us time and the body gives us object space. From this limited perceived particle form, the physical body as the self, we become a reality with a self-imagined point in time and space. Man created time as a concept because our embodied reality puts us in a time-space continuum where past, present, and future can be measured, and we see ourselves progressing in a linear fashion down a path of time. However, some theories in quantum physics state that what we really do is keep choosing one single possible storyline each moment in time, whereas there are infinite choices in every moment that we can choose from, and each choice we make then opens up the next unlimited set of possibilities for the next moment.
Now, I wanted to stop there because what they're talking about here in our brains, if we just allow ourselves to focus on one area, when there's a lot of areas we can focus on and learn. But you see, within Jehovah's Witness religion, they hamper people's learning, and they talk down about higher education and about expanding knowledge. And the governing body has brainwashed everyone in the organization to believe that they can only find truth through the governing body's writings, through the Watchtower. So that's completely false. We know that. As soon as we're doing that, we are really limiting the neural pathways within our brain. I just thought that was a really important part. I'm going to get off and get back to the video. Sorry. It's kind of deep, some of this stuff, but it's just like Jesus said. You whatever we put into our mind, whatever we sow, we will reap it. And he even talked about, Jesus talked about our minds. And he even gave indication, a person is having fornication within their minds, even if they're not doing it. They're committing these acts within their mind. And so Jesus did talk about our minds. Our minds are powerful, and our minds is where we manifest everything. And if we want to believe in the governing body and believe that we have to follow them, we're really limiting our mind. We're not even taking our mind to Christ Jesus or outside of that. We're limiting it to these men on earth. And that's the danger with the religion. And that's what I'm hopefully in this video trying to get across. So here we go. I'm going to get back out of here and do that.
From the field of neuroscience, we know that our brain operates from imagery, sounds, smells, taste, and touch that are processed through electrical signals. The gray, dark area of the brain organ does not have any physical contact with what is considered external stimuli. It is a translator. Our perception and cognition of objects through the apparatus gives rise to feelings and emotions. We then think of our life as operating in a constant loop where we take in our reality from out there, via all our senses and awareness, and then process it via the mental consciousness procedure, which uses our nervous systems and brain neural circuitry. These in turn produce feelings, which are effects of cellular biochemical reactions and pathways running in our body. Our brains do not confront the original of any matter on a physical level, but rather produce an electrical copy of it formed inside this organ. In other words, the external world is inside of our brains. These physical facts bring us to the conclusion.
So what I think is important to grasp here, and what I took out of this, is when we were in the Jehovah's Witness religion, within our brain, we're trying to grasp this fictional story that the Watchtower pumps out. And we're trying to grasp Armageddon, and we're trying to visualize this and put this all inside our brain, and we're trying to manifest it, I guess. So this is the danger with some of these cult religions. We're going to carry on here.
That everything we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch are simply electrical signals within our brain that are interpreted. Therefore, the things interpreted are a part of us. They are produced within the brain, which is encased within the body. You are not in the world you perceive yourself to be in. Rather, the world is inside of you. Your body, or the I that you recognize to be you, the body you know yourself to be in, is also an image form that is rendered within your brain. The only reality that any one of us experience is the world of perception within our minds, and consequently our feeling states. This is why you may hear that the world is a mirror or a reflection of who and what you are. It originates and lives internally within you and is interpreted by the brain within you. However, you are not your brain. The brain is operated by something much larger. This organ is merely a means of translation of experiences. Your consciousness, or your conscious mind, experiencing the translation of the brain as mirrored back to you. What this means is, the mind can take control. It has the ability to shape the brain's wiring. This tool, the brain, is meant to be used by the mind, not the other way around. Unfortunately, many become stuck in allowing the brain to run on its default programming rather than giving it new programs to bring about new translations or manifestations. When the mind finds its true power, the result is motivation, inspiration, expression, healing, discovery, personal growth, and deliberate creation. The brain, in its purely primal function, is incapable of such things. It is simply a machine, or as previously stated, a tool to be utilized in a purposeful manner. When properly employed, it is a servant and not the master. That being said, it has the capability of bringing you every experience you have ever dreamed of. Although this concept may be difficult for many to understand, the science behind it is factual. No one experiences reality in the same manner that you do because you create it internally. With this knowledge, it may become easier to understand how you have the ability to consciously alter the brain to generate what you choose to now perceive. You can create new neural pathways and therefore new electrical signals that will furnish you with a new translation or what you know as your physical reality. Rewiring your brain is critical in creating what you desire. Following are several ways to do this.
Quit going to college. Quit your job.
1. Go outside of your normal routine. According to scientific research, we each have about 60,000 thoughts per day. That's equivalent to one thought for every 1 to 2 seconds during every waking hour. What's even more interesting is that of those 60,000 thoughts, 95% are the same thoughts you had yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. Your mind is like a record player playing the same record over and over again. In this manner, it is nearly impossible to create a deviation from your current reality.
I just wanted to stop there and talk about this because this is what happens when we have been a Jehovah's Witness for a long time. We have this record that plays over and over in our mind. And it's very important that we take that needle and we scratch that record. We build new records. And we have to build new stories and put new stories into our mind. And that's what this video is all about here. And a lot of the stuff we're going to be pulling onto this channel. I have some new stuff on Saturday that you guys are going to really like. But let's carry through with this. He's going to show us how we can reprogram ourselves out to get out of these thoughts of this religion out of our mind. It's destructive. It's not good thinking. Here it is.
One way to alter the record that is on repeat within the brain is to go outside of your normal routine whenever possible. By doing something new, our brain circuits respond by stretching our neuroplasticity and activating new pathways. What this means is, the brain forms and reorganizes new connections in response to new experiences. When we do this often enough, neurons in our brain are reinforced, making stronger connections and creating new electrical signals that have the ability to translate new experiences in our reality. This gives the brain more options to work with for future manifestations. Push yourself to take risks. With some research, you may easily discover that people who are successful in accomplishing their desires do this often. They stretch themselves whenever possible. Do something out of your comfort zone, go out of your routine, see through the eyes of someone else, or lean into something that challenges you. By opening yourself to new things, a new you emerges in the contrast of the ordinary. When you change, your brain changes, and therefore your reality will change too. 2. Dream yourself into a new reality. Visualizing and daydreaming have a large impact on our brain. The brain doesn't know the difference between what's being played out in the external and internal world. Accordingly, internal transformation changes our outer reality. As previously mentioned, the outer world is merely a mirror of what's happening internally within the brain. This means you can literally dream yourself into a new reality by rewiring your brain through visualizing and mentally stimulating your mind to embed new signals into your cells and circuitry. A scientific study was performed with 2 groups learning a new piano exercise. Group A learned one-handed exercises with chords and scales. Brain scans showed new areas were activated after the exercises. They created a new habit and new circuits were created. Group B was asked to only visualize and mentally play the chords and scales. The brain scan results found that the identical areas of the brain were being activated and identical connections were being made as the group who physically demonstrated the exercise. These same outcomes have also been proven in research with athletes who were split into groups to analyze the potential of physical performance versus mental performance. Consequently, this demonstrates that the brain cannot tell the difference between something imagined and something experienced from a physical point of view. Once again, the brain is merely the translator of the experience. It will send the same electrical signals through the body when visualization is implemented as it will when experiencing the same thing from a physical level. 3. Tell yourself the best feeling story available. Telling yourself the best feeling stories about all your life's circumstances will over time build and cement new, improved beliefs. This reforms your habitual neural network of thought and creates new electrical signals. The quantum field, or the holographic world that you perceive through the brain, is responding to your beliefs and the expectations that those beliefs invoke. It delivers their equivalent back to you to create your physical reality. Therefore, improving your beliefs will always be your key, long-term, to more fully realizing your dreams and goals. Repetition and heightened feeling states are of utmost importance. By tricking the brain into feeling that the reality you choose is already so, it will go to work to match that for you. This is an example of the mind overriding the brain and can be accomplished by feeling how it would feel to already have what you desire. Or you may produce an intense positive feeling state by recalling something from your past. If this doesn't work for you, imagine a person that already has what you want and how it must feel to be them. With enough time and consistent practice, the brain will believe that the new reality is already so, and respond to the new beliefs by manifesting the matching electrical circuits for a new perceived material reality. Extensive studies show that when you decide to change your mind in a determined fashion, you cause physical changes to your brain. It has also been scientifically shown that the brain is structurally altered by changes in your behavior patterns. You can make this a conscious process where shifts in your thoughts, attitude, and beliefs rewire current problematic areas. You can conquer toxic thinking patterns and old limiting beliefs with conscious changes in your views, having new visions, imploring feelings of your choosing, and stretching yourself whenever possible. You get to consciously choose what you will create or change. With enough time and effort, you can immerse your consciousness into any reality you desire. But before you can enact this immense power, you must decide which action you will take. You must make a choice on which reality you want to observe at the cost of becoming blind to all other options. Select your new reality and add momentum to that observed choice with the waveform energy within you. Thoughts, mental images.
I was going to key in here a couple of times, but I think the message I'm getting here is that as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, we have to focus on something else. So a lot of coming onto these channels, if you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness, is doing just what they're saying here. It's reworking our brain, taking in new thoughts, and even exploring new things. You know, I threw on my Saturday sex show where you'll see more of the sects or beliefs that people have and different things. Last week we ran the Anunnaki, and it really got a lot of hits. We're going to talk about some other stuff. And these are coming from some of our subscribers, and we run through them. Now I might get excited and, well, this is the best thing, but what we're doing is we're creating new synapses. There's nothing wrong with it. It's no different than watching a Star Wars movie or something like that. That's what it was like for me watching the Anunnaki. But here, you think as a Jehovah's Witness, once they focus in and allow themselves to believe in this one concept, then everything else goes away. And this helps me to understand how I was programmed when I was a Jehovah's Witness. And now that on this channel I've been sharing my journey, deprogramming, now I can see it quite clearly, is that deprogramming is about scratching the record and building new records. It takes a lot of work. And so we have to undo all of those Armageddon ideas, and we have to fill those ideas with something else. We have to come to other conclusions. And I can understand why a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses might take the road of being an atheist and saying, I don't want to believe in anything. And then that's easy for the brain to accept. I don't want to believe in anything, so you're an atheist. We just came about. For me, it's a hard one, but I don't knock anybody that forms that type of belief, because of all this pressure from being in religion and all the falsities we've seen. Anyways, I interrupted this program. I shouldn't. You can come back or go onto her site and rewatch it. I recommend you go onto her site, rewatch it, give her the hits. She allowed me to borrow her information, and that was really good of the site. We'll go back and I'll show you the site again here. So here
Images and feelings. The particle energy around you will begin to blur and shift as you pull yourself deeper into your new reality. In consciously pursuing this new existence, The options you didn't select will fade out of thought, out of observation, and begin to experience a decay of quantum likelihood because the brain is creating new circuitry for the new experiences of your choosing. Anything we're not actively perceiving does not truly exist. This is the approach of the Live in the Now movement, which is largely rooted in Eastern philosophies. The realization of this methodology is that you can only perceive one place at one moment, and therefore anything outside of that single image of space-time doesn't truly exist. Knowing this, then,
what I got out of that part is that when we choose a Jehovah's Witness, like a religion, let's say we want to be a Mormon or a Catholic or a Jehovah's, when we choose a religion, we are really limiting our existence, and now we're giving all our thought to that religion, and everything within that religion has to be true. And isn't that the way we are as people? You know, if I'm an atheist, well then everything I'm going to write about is going to prove to you that you should be an atheist. Or if I'm a Jehovah's Witness, everything about my mind is going to prove to you and me that I'm a Jehovah's Witness, because or that's the right way to go, or a Mormon or a Catholic. Now, for a lot of us, we got outside of the Jehovah's Witness religion, and for me, I want to be spiritual, but I want nothing to do with any of the organized religions out there. I don't even want to be a part of some Eastern group that practices meditation. I just want to undo the wiring in my head, replace it with something else. And I think a lot of it is living in the real and in the now, trying to explore more about what's happening around us. You know, when's the last time we put aside the TV, the phone, or whatever, we went out into the park, or if we have that option, and we started looking at butterflies and bees and you know, examining some of these things. There's lots to wrap our heads around on this earth. We have to decide what we want to do. I'm gonna carry forth. I cut you off too many times here. Here it is.
becomes no reason to let your mind dwell and concern itself with realities you can't actually prove are real, realities that, in that moment, have absolutely no impact on your life. And so the only option is to immerse yourself completely into the current sensation that you can prove through your own individual experience. This is the power you have in every moment, to see all the possible outcomes available to you, and then connect consciously and purposely with the one that seems most desirable. We are each in a theater of our own creation, continually writing the scripts and decorating the stage with our focus. Remember this when you feel trapped within the illusion of a job, a relationship, a living situation, or any other label. If something in your life has become a source of pain or discomfort for you, you have the power to change it. All you have to do is choose a different reality.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It kind of opens our mind up to look at things a little different, get outside of the box, and to see what Jesus was talking about. He said, you will reap. He says you will sow, whatever you sow, that you will also reap. So whatever we sow in mind, in thought, if we sow barley, if we sow wheat, that's what's going to grow. In our minds, it all starts there. To get our arms to actually get the seeds, go buy the seeds and put them in the ground, it has to be a vision in our mind. And in our mind, we could perhaps vision the fruitage of the crop. You know, we're farmers, so we understand that, and we can watch things grow. We plant peas and beans and different vegetables. Well, we can envision the crop. We've done it before, and we've harvested these things before. So we envision it. So the same is true in life, whatever we want to do. And if we want to become a computer programmer, we can do that. If we want to become a singer, we can do that. Now, apparently there's not, there's too much competition on YouTube for singing, but but we can do anything we want. So now, Where are we now on the channel? It's 6:21. We started at 5:30, so we're just a half hour in, or an hour in. I'm going to take a look at the channel here, see who's on. Any questions? How did you guys enjoy that? If you like this kind of stuff, I can pull more of this stuff in. Now again, you can go to the this person's site and you can see for yourself their videos. So let's just look at that again here. It's right here. This is the site that we looked at. Your Universe. At Your Universe. It's on YouTube, so I put a link to it in the description below, so you guys can easily find that. Okay, so now what do we have next? We are looking at here. I'm going to go to some comments on the channel. So I have one comment here from John, the preacher. Here he is, John. Thank you, John, for commenting. So this was on the Anunnaki to Yahweh video that we put out. Awesome, Vern. This is my favorite episode so far. I love this stuff. When I was on the Saturday Sex Show, and we brought John on our Saturday Sex Show a couple weeks ago, and he said that he basically believes the theory of the Bible, but I don't take it as literal, word for word transcription. This is what I was getting at, and one of the important details was not mentioned is that Abraham, who is supposed to be the father of the Israelites, was a Sumerian. And all of the creation stories would have been handed down from Abraham, again, a Sumerian, from the city of Ur. So everything passed down to Moses would have been ultimately from Abraham, and so all of the overlapping of the stories makes total sense. All of the Genesis stories are Elohim, plural, stories, Garden of Eden, the flood, Sodom and Gomorrah, etc., and would more accurately be translated as the gods doing all of that. So thank you, John, for throwing those comments out. We had a lot of comments on that one. I'm just going to go down here. We had another one from Watchtower Help Club I wanted to share. Now, you remember Watchtower Help Club? We use a lot of his videos. Let me see. Right here. So we use a lot of the Watchtower Help Club videos. So and he's an individual that used to work in the New York Bethel in the writing, and you can the Watchtower Help Club. You can go to their site, and they have a lot of blogs on virtually every subject you could think of. So we're covering them slowly from subject to subject. Now I'm going to read what they sent me. They said, interesting, Anunnaki. He says, I do believe the idea of Yahweh evolved from Canaanite gods, and that he initially was perceived as a god of war, the god of armies, as the New World Translation revealingly puts it. And the Bible, in a passage that someone forgot to edit out, seems to indicate that Yahweh was one of many sons of the god El. And he's referencing Deuteronomy 32, 8-9. I want to look that one up. Let's look that one up. We're going to click over here, Deuteronomy 32, 8-9. Okay, so we just click in here, and we go to Deuteronomy. Where are we? There we are, Deuteronomy 32. And we're going to look at 8-9. And it says there, when the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, when he divided mankind up, he fixed the borders of the people according to the numbers of the sons of God. But the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob is his allotted heritage. So this shows us that there was a breaking up, there's a dividing of the inheritances, and according to the numbers of the sons of God. But the Lord's portion was his people, Jacob. So Jehovah's portion, Yahweh's portion was Jacob, was Israel. And that was Yahweh's portion. And that's what I think he's trying to tell us here. Now I'm going to go back to what he's saying. He says, as discussed in my blog article, Does God Exist? However, I don't buy the ancient astronauts idea. We have not detected any radio waves indicating advanced life forms coming from outer space. Even in the provided Wikipedia link, it says Sitchin's ideas have been resoundingly rejected by scientists, academics, historians, including Sumeriologists, Orientologists, and Assyrianologists, and anthropologists who dismiss his work as pseudoscience and pseudo-history. His work has been criticized for flawed methodology, ignoring archaeology and historical evidence, and mistranslations of ancient texts, as well as for incorrect astronomical and scientific claims. Physics rule out his idea of the planet Nibiru, returning to the inner solar system regularly every 3,600 years. See also Wikipedia article on Zecharia Sitchin before falling too deeply into his rabbit hole. So I agree. Thank you very much for pointing that out. I wanted to read that on this channel. So when I bring these things out, I hope I'm not getting you to fall for something else. But what we're doing is creating new synapses in our minds and undoing some of this garbage that the Watchtower put in there. So we have to undo some of it. So the guy like Stitchin, it's easy to get sucked in, but he's no different than Russell, Rutherford, and all of these guys. These guys have read the Bible. And so here, this guy, this guy read some of the Sumerian tablets, and he had an interest in it. And you can read all about it, and I did, and I went and read about it, and I read about various people don't agree with him because he kind of went off on a fictional story. But, you know, the Watchtower is the same thing. This whole fictional story, only 144,000 going to go to heaven. Heaven's a big place, but only 144,000 are going there. But they have the Watchtower has their own way of understanding the Bible. So Sitchin, he understands the Bible to a certain extent, and then he understands the Sumerian tablets, and he had some of his own ideas. So he made 12 books. I don't know if the guy got rich off it, but other people are making channels on his books, and you can't get a hold of him. This creator, I couldn't get a hold of him. I tried to email them. They don't show their emails. So I put in the comments, they'll never get a hold of you. They don't want to talk about these things. Some people can't. And maybe they really believe in it, and they're afraid to debate it. So at any rate, on this channel, don't take anything that I'm saying too seriously, but examine things yourself. And done are the days where we're just going to listen to the Watchtower or duplicate the Watchtower. Who of us out here know the absolute truth? Who of us can say we know the absolute truth? None of us. A lot of us kind of have ideas and we throw out our ideas, but none of us really know absolutely what the truth is. So as we grow older as a race of people, we learn more. We're definitely learning more about our brains and how it's easy to allow our brains to become indoctrinated and believe in certain things and to be narrow. Because our brains like to believe in one thing. So once we get out of religion, we're going to replace that belief with something else. So thank you, Watchtower Help Club. So now, wasn't sure if there was any others that we were going to be covering. Oh yeah. Now here's one from one of the other subscribers, Kinsman Academy videos. So I went and looked at the Kinsman Academy videos, and I'm going to feature that next Saturday on our Saturday sex show. So don't get too worried if I get all excited about this, but it's a cool story. And I really liked it. If you like the Anunnaki, tune in next Saturday. You're really going to like that show. But today, I hope I covered a little bit on the law of attraction, on the assembly, on fear-mongering, and what all this fear stuff does to us. So fear can be good. It can keep us safe. But fear can be pleasurable. You go on a roller coaster ride, or you go through a haunted house thing and you scream, But fear can be turned into a phobia. And this is when it becomes dangerous and it really taxes on our bodies. And it becomes a phobia when we start thinking about it. And the Watchtower has cunningly designed their program so that the members go back to their home congregations and they talk about the assembly program. And they will be talking about the fear, and it will turn of this video, this dramatization, and it will turn into a phobia within the religion. And that's what's happening. So if you know people in the Watchtower, help them to get out. It's not a good place to be. The fear from the Watchtower will make them foggy. And the parts of the brain that are revving up will shut down other parts of the brain that have reason to examine this. And this is what the Watchtower knows about. So yes, we are exposing the Watchtower. We will keep doing it. And over the summer, I will be breaking down each session of the assembly. Look for my videos and you will see them. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. It helps our channel out. If you haven't liked, please like. That really helps the channel out. YouTube will look at all of these things, and it will, if there's a lot of interest and a lot of really sincere discussion, YouTube robots take this and then they send it out to other people. And that's how we get more hits on our videos. So thanks again for all of your support. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be able to do this live. You guys had to subscribe. Creators cannot do lives unless they have at least 1,000 subscriptions. And YouTube even makes you go a little further, and they wait, and well, you got to wait another 30 days. You got to get 40,000 views, and so there's all of these things that YouTube has, little robots, before they will recommend our videos and get them out there. So that's why we need more creators, more videos, because we have to work together as on this side of the fence to help those in the Watchtower to come out, and to help those that are just coming out to have a place to go, because they still want to believe in something, and they have to build new records. And you and I are helping them to build a new record right here on this site. So thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you next time. So here's my closing. There we are. Well, folks, thank you for joining the live tonight at JW Night Talk. And this show is made possible because of you guys. So please subscribe, like and share, and throw your comments. And thanks for your participation tonight. The band out there. Time to get up and go and dance. So come on, get up with me. Let's go and do a little shake.